Hi there. Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast with me, Russell Davis. This week, I want to explore the process of creating the things we want in our lives. As part of that creative process, there's certain ingredients to that process that I think often we miss out, or we add in unnecessary ingredients that stop us creating more of what we want in our life. So let's explore what those ingredients are to help you know what you can focus on. Help you to let go of those things that actually hold you back from creating those things you want in your life. So let's dive in. I want to share some of the things I've been seeing recently about creating more of what we want in our life. Having a vision for what we want is obviously key, and some people struggle to identify what they really want. I was such a people pleaser, and because I grew up in an environment where I thought I needed to please my mum, I wanted my mum to be happy with me. I felt more loved when my mum was happy with me, which is quite natural as a child. The mammalian part of our brain thinks our survival as a human is dependent on being part of a pack, where our position in the pack is safe and secure, that we're valued and appreciated. So as a child, we often seek to please our parents or caregivers or people in authority, teachers, even friends. We want to feel safe in a pack. So elements of us can become a bit of a people pleaser, especially if we don't think we're getting that reassurance, acknowledgement, that attention, the validity that sometimes we need as a child. So when you grow up, what I call more outside in, more focused on making sure other people are okay, are they happy, rather than thinking what you want. So as a child, what I wanted wasn't in the equation. It was more, what do I need to do to make her happy? So I almost lost sight of my own hopes, dreams, and desires. I lost connection to that part of me, my soul, my heart's desires. It's always there. We never lose it. It's almost we lose practice. We lose, our ear loses the kind of sound of it. We're not tuned into it. We're so much more tuned into our insecure thinking, our survival thinking, egoic thinking that comes from a place of insecurity and fear, becomes a more familiar voice. And it becomes a voice actually that justifies itself by saying, well, I've created your success up to now. So we get sucked into kind of believing it. And we lose sight of that little voice within our truth, our inner desires. But the more we follow these inner desires, we can get a sense of what you want to create in a way. We might have a vision of what we want to create in our life. It's a family or a certain business or financial freedom, experiences, adventures. There's certain things you may want to achieve in life. You have a vision of what you want to create with life. But the other end of the scale is where we are today. The actual reality of today, the truth of where we are today. And a lot of kind of creative process, visioning processes, manifestation, all those things often focus on where you want to get to, but don't acknowledge where we are today. And sometimes we don't want to acknowledge where we are today because we feel so far from where we want to be. But we need to hold where we are today in mind while holding where we want to be. Because there's a tension between the two. There's a tension between the two, and that's a creative tension. Creativity comes from that tension. In nature, there's a tension that kind of underpins growth and creativity. A tree will always look to grow towards the light. Plants always look to grow towards the light. You see plants doing all sorts of shapes, trees doing all sorts of shapes as they kind of grow towards the light. There's a tension within the tree moving away from darkness towards light. We want to move away from where we are now to create more of what we want. And we need to hold both in mind and hold space for that tension. hold the tension. I had a men's coach that used to get us to do these very physically challenging qigong poses and with breath work and like all these things. The more you relax into it and focus on your breath, you can withstand that kind of pose so much more than you imagine. You're connecting to a deeper part of you. You're getting out of your thinking. But also, it did get uncomfortable. And his catchphrase was "hold the pose," well, hold the effing pose in his language. But hold the pose, because we need to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable to a degree. But we have this tension between where we are now and where we want to be. But the thing is, there's a part of us that doesn't like tension. We seek comfort. We're addicted to comfort in a way. That's our egoic thinking. Wants to feel safe and secure and comfortable. So when we feel that tension, the temptation is to collapse the tension. To collapse the tension by doing a few things. One may be to deny the vision. Oh, I don't really want that. Or who am I to have that? And we let go of the vision as a way of collapsing that tension. Or we deny our reality, where we are. We don't want to accept where we are. And we're so focused on where we want to be, we're not accepting where we are because maybe it's too painful to accept. We're not there yet to accept where you are in that moment. And on our fertility journey, I can see I did that. I didn't accept the reality of where we were. I was so focused on being so positive and holding on to the vision. I wasn't accepting that tension and the reality where we are. And it wasn't until I did that and felt almost the grief of where we were and hold that tension and the pain and the grief, then things kind of happen. Creativity happens psychologically and also physically. So it's holding both in mind. I mean, live acceptance of where you are. Accepting where you are, the reality of where you are, doesn't mean giving up on your vision. Accepting where you are is accepting you're okay in this moment. Accepting you are there now doesn't mean you want to stay there. It's not giving up. It's just accepting where you are now in this moment. In this moment in time, I am okay. And there's a tension between the two, and you create choices towards the vision, which I'll come back to. Another way we often kind of sort of collapse the tension is to create a plan. Our egoic thinking wants to know exactly how we're going to get there, all the steps, because it wants to feel safe. It wants to feel secure. It wants to know it's going to be okay, as in this void of unknowing, in this tension of not knowing how you're going to get there. It wants to know. It doesn't like not knowing. It likes to work out how you're going to get there. It wants a plan. It wants some security, I guess, or confidence, belief. You're going to get there. That belief comes through having an action plan and seeing the way through from A to Z. Another way we try to collapse the tension is trying to work out the conditions we need to create that vision, who we need to be, resolving our issues, our beliefs, our past, and trying to work out the conditions we think we need to create that vision. But that's a way of collapsing the tension. Maybe part of us doesn't believe we're good enough, but that's part of the tension. Holding that tension and taking steps, making choices despite that. I'll give an example is not just creating something big, creating something small, anything, where we often focus on the conditions rather than the vision. Say the vision of my relationship, I want a connected relationship with my wife. There's sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I'm angry, upset. I become like a child. I can sulk. I can be passive aggressive. And that's a way of breaking the tension. By putting the barrier up, you can't hurt me, I can't feel this. It's a way of going into my cave, feeling safe, and not feeling tension in that moment. It's almost, I'm telling myself, the story I'm telling myself is until she respects me, or we can't feel connected. I can't feel connected until she respects me. I can't come out and have connection and vulnerability with her until I feel respected or valued, or whatever the story I'm telling myself in that moment. And interestingly, she called me out on this at one point. She's saying, I know we're having a disagreement, but look at me. And I looked at her. I held that tension. The little boy in me didn't want to do that. But as I looked at her, the creative process kicked in. We created something magical in that moment. and the tension just disappeared, the disagreement disappeared, and it was very powerful and very honouring and very life-giving. It created connection. And in response to me holding the pose and looking at her and being an adult in that situation, she had more respect for me. Wherever it was, the conditions I was looking for, they come from being in that tension. Focusing on the vision, focusing on creating connection, the vision, rather than the conditions I think I need to create the connection. So we have this creative tension between the truth of where we are and our vision. And what moves us through that is not this detailed plan of knowing how we're going to get there. When we hold that tension, something deeper kicks in, our innate wisdom kicks in, insight, clarity kicks in. We hold that tension between where we are and where we want to be. Ideas come to mind, insights, clarity. Coincidences happen. Whether we believe in coincidences anymore, we connect to something bigger. And it's about creating choices. I say when we follow our inner wisdom, our intuition, it's like one breadcrumb at a time, one choice at a time. We don't know how we're going to get there in the end, but it's what's the choice we're going to take today towards that? What insight, action can we take today? It's making choices. I use the word choices because sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but it's a choice anyway. It's that commitment to our vision. And we sometimes don't feel like doing it. I very rarely feel like going for a run, but I know it's what I want. I have a vision of being healthy and fit. So it's choice, making choices within that creative tension, trusting our inspiration, clarity, wisdom has got it. We don't need a detailed plan. And it's holding the pose. And the more we understand the nature of a feeling, how the feeling is just a story, it's not reality. It's not who you are. It's not about who you are, whether you're good enough and trust, your capabilities or it's your past. It's none of that. It's a story in this moment which you can hold lightly. And the more we can see the true nature of our feelings, the true nature of our stories, they're just pure imagination, enables us to hold that tension more light, enables us to hold the pose and make choices towards that vision. So don't deny where you are now. Accept your reality while holding that vision in mind. And it's the creative tension between the two that moves us forward. Loving you.